From the very beginning, humans have gazed at the world around them with quiet curiosity, noticing patterns in the stars, the rise and fall of the sun, and the changing seasons. Our ancestors lived close to the rhythms of the earth, observing rivers, mountains, and the sky with a careful attention that shaped early knowledge and ritual. For most of history, we assume humans gradually progressed from simple survival to complex society, from small bands of foragers to organized cities and civilizations. Yet, scattered traces of ancient activity hint that this timeline might be incomplete, that there may have been human, or human-like, intelligence long before the rise of the first known civilizations. Mysterious sites, artifacts, and ancient stories suggest the presence of people capable of sophisticated thought, engineering, and culture in eras we typically consider primitive. Massive stone structures, precise astronomical alignments, and symbolic carvings appear across continents, predating agriculture, writing, and even urban settlements. In quiet, reflective contemplation, we begin to realize that the history we accept may be only part of a much larger, hidden story. What if humans had already achieved remarkable feats, only for their memory to be partially erased by time, cataclysm, or the fragility of human record? This documentary invites you to journey through deep time, exploring enigmatic monuments, ancient myths, lost knowledge, and traces of civilizations buried beneath layers of earth and sea. We will traverse continents and millennia, following subtle echoes of human ingenuity, connecting myths to monuments, technology to catastrophe. In doing so, we confront a question that lingers in the shadows of history. Are we truly the first, or are we heirs to knowledge far older than we have been taught to believe? Even as modern history places the origins of civilization in Mesopotamia, Egypt, and the Indus Valley, hints of earlier human achievement appear in unexpected places. Across continents, scattered artifacts, peculiar structures, and geological anomalies suggest the presence of people capable of advanced thought long before conventional timelines allow. Flint tools embedded in ancient strata, megalithic arrangements in remote landscapes, and traces of early settlements hidden beneath soil and sand point to a narrative of human activity that stretches far deeper than textbooks acknowledge. These remnants quietly challenge our assumptions, offering glimpses of intelligence and organization that hint at civilizations now lost to memory. Some sites, like Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, stand as stark evidence of this early sophistication. Massive T-shaped pillars, carved with intricate animal motifs and arranged in circular enclosures, date back to nearly 9,600 BC, long before farming became widespread. Similarly, other enigmatic structures across the world reveal knowledge of geometry, engineering, and social coordination that seems almost impossible for societies considered prehistoric. Even small artifacts, from carefully shaped tools to symbolic carvings, reveal minds capable of observation, planning, and abstraction. Collectively, they form a subtle yet persistent argument. Human intelligence may have flourished, then vanished, leaving only fragments in stone, soil, and legend. By examining these anomalies, we begin to sense a deeper rhythm in history, a hidden past intertwined with the familiar story of humanity. The evidence suggests that the first sparks of complex culture may have emerged long before civilization as we know it, and that the hands of unknown peoples shaped the foundations of knowledge we now inherit. As we move forward, we will explore these ancient achievements in detail, tracing their echoes across time and geography, and opening the door to the possibility that humanity's story is far older, stranger, and more intricate than we have been taught to believe. Across the vast stretches of time, there exist objects and remnants that refuse to fit neatly into our conventional understanding of human history. These anomalies, often called out-of-place artifacts, challenge the neat chronological boxes in which archaeologists have placed human progress. They are tools, sculptures, and other traces of human activity that appear in contexts where, according to the accepted timeline, they should not exist. Some are found embedded in coal or ancient rock layers, suggesting an age far older than the civilizations we know. Others are sophisticated instruments or devices, seemingly designed for purposes that the culture of the era could not have comprehended. Each one whispers a quiet question. How could knowledge, skill, or artistry exist so far before the civilizations that supposedly first mastered them? Take, for instance, the strange tools discovered in geological layers far older than the earliest known humans. Ancient stone implements have been found in strata that date millions of years back, long before Homo sapiens are thought to have existed. While mainstream explanations often suggest natural processes or misdating, the very presence of these objects hints at the possibility that intelligent activity may stretch farther back than we have dared to imagine. The thought is disquieting yet captivating. Perhaps intelligence is not a sudden phenomenon, but a recurring one, appearing in forms and places we cannot yet fully recognize. The artifacts themselves, silent and immovable, become portals to a world we cannot touch, offering the faintest glimpses of ingenuity lost to time. Even more perplexing are objects that suggest advanced knowledge in an age supposedly dominated by simple tools. Ancient maps, for example, depict coastlines and geographical features that were not believed to have been accurately charted until thousands of years later. Some maps appear to show Antarctica free of ice, or regions now submerged beneath oceans, hinting at a civilization capable of surveying and documenting the world with precision long before our conventional timeline allows. Similarly, intricate metalwork or carvings found in unexpected contexts suggest a level of craftsmanship and understanding that seems impossible for their assigned era. These anomalies are not isolated curiosities. They accumulate, forming a quiet chorus that questions the completeness of our history. Each object is a riddle, its meaning partially hidden by the passage of time. What is perhaps most intriguing is the subtle way in which these anomalies appear across the globe. In South America, enigmatic metal artifacts have been found in layers predating known civilizations. In Europe and Asia, mysterious carvings and mechanical devices seem to reflect knowledge of astronomy, engineering, or metallurgy beyond the expected capability of the local culture. Even in the Americas, isolated civilizations produced astonishingly accurate calendars and celestial observations without apparent contact with the old world. The scattered nature of these artifacts creates a sense of hidden continuity, suggesting that either knowledge traveled across impossible distances or that human, or human-like, intelligence has periodically reached remarkable heights independently. The tension between the known and the unknown grows stronger with every example. Legends, too, accompany many of these artifacts, adding layers of mystery that complement the physical evidence. Oral traditions often speak of teachers from the sky, divine artisans, or ancestors possessing wisdom that has since been lost. Some cultures remember tools or structures that appeared long before they could have been made by their own people, as if knowledge had been inherited from an earlier age. While myth is not proof, it functions as a bridge between the material world and human imagination, preserving faint echoes of reality that may have been obscured by cataclysm, migration, or the slow decay of memory. When these stories align, even partially, with physical artifacts, they create an almost hypnotic tension, a world simultaneously familiar and unknown, concrete and ethereal. The contrast between skepticism and intrigue is central to this exploration. Scientists and historians often dismiss these anomalies, attributing them to errors in dating, misinterpretation, or natural coincidence. Such caution is essential in maintaining rigorous scholarship, yet it leaves a gap between what is accepted and what is observed. For those who listen closely, this gap is where curiosity thrives. The very act of questioning, without claiming certainty, becomes a gentle invitation to explore deeper, to hold the mystery in the mind with both openness and patience. It is a meditative process, moving slowly through time and space, weighing evidence, listening to the subtle suggestions left behind by those who came before. Consider, as well, the mechanical anomalies found in unexpected eras. Artifacts resembling gears, complex tools, or devices that imply an understanding of engineering principles have been unearthed far earlier than our textbooks suggest. The Antikythera mechanism, discovered in the Mediterranean, is one of the most famous examples, an intricate assembly of gears capable of predicting celestial movements, constructed over 2,000 years ago, yet no comparable technology appears in surrounding cultures until centuries later. The very existence of such objects implies that knowledge may have been gained, lost, and regained repeatedly across time. It hints at civilizations whose sophistication is difficult to imagine and whose existence may have been erased by the forces of nature or the impermanence of human endeavor. Geological contexts further complicate the picture. Fossils, artifacts, and tools sometimes appear in layers of sediment or stone that predate known human activity. While some researchers suggest contamination or misinterpretation, the sheer number of anomalies makes it difficult to dismiss all of them. When viewed together, these artifacts form a subtle pattern. Intelligence, creativity, and the urge to manipulate the world are older than we often assume. Perhaps human history is not a straight ascent from simplicity to complexity, but a series of rises and collapses, civilizations emerging, thriving, and vanishing long before written records could capture their presence. The Earth, patient and impartial, preserves fragments of these stories in ways that tease the imagination and stir a quiet sense of wonder. Equally fascinating is the geographic distribution of these artifacts. Their occurrence across multiple continents, often in isolation from one another, suggests a narrative that challenges conventional assumptions of diffusion and cultural borrowing. If advanced knowledge appeared simultaneously in distant regions, what does that imply about human ingenuity or the possibility of civilizations lost entirely? The mind is left to drift among the implications, considering patterns invisible to the untrained eye. In the soft light of reflection, the objects themselves become more than evidence. They are silent interlocutors, inviting contemplation rather than confrontation, curiosity rather than certainty. Yet, despite the anomalies, the narrative remains subtle, almost hypnotic. There is no rush, no need to claim revelation. Each artifact, map, or anomaly is presented calmly, as a window into possibilities that extend far beyond the narrow boundaries of conventional history. The juxtaposition of the known with the unknown, of fact with suggestion, creates a gentle tension that draws the mind onward. Listeners are encouraged to consider that our understanding of history may be provisional, partial, and deeply incomplete. It is a perspective that respects both evidence and imagination, cultivating a meditative curiosity that carries naturally into the next stage, exploring the ancient monuments and structures that hint at civilizations far older than our textbooks acknowledge. These objects, in their quiet way, form a bridge to the larger, more tangible remnants of lost civilizations. The megaliths, stone circles, and monumental structures that still stand as silent witnesses to ingenuity long vanished. Just as artifacts whisper across millennia, these structures broadcast their messages in stone, aligning with stars, shaping landscapes, and challenging the assumptions of archaeologists. The artifacts suggest possibility, while the monuments suggest scale. Together, they begin to form a pattern, a mosaic of human achievement whose earliest pieces are still faint and elusive, yet undeniably present. It is within this delicate balance of evidence and mystery that we find the central allure of lost civilizations, the tension between what we know and what might have been. And so, as the mind drifts across these impossible objects, across maps and tools that defy chronology, a profound realization emerges. History is not a single, unbroken narrative. It is layered, fractured, and punctuated with mysteries that refuse to be neatly explained. These anomalies invite patience, reflection, and quiet wonder. They ask us to imagine intelligence and creativity far older than we are accustomed to to consider the possibility of civilizations that flourished and disappeared, leaving behind tantalizing fragments for those who are willing to notice. In listening to their whispers, we prepare ourselves to encounter the larger, more imposing remnants of these societies, the monuments, the megaliths, the ancient constructions that rise like questions carved in stone. In the quiet corners of the world, away from the bustling cities and the clamor of modern life, stand monuments that seem almost impossible in their age and ambition. They rise from the earth with a silent authority, massive stones meticulously arranged, shapes and alignments precise, yet their origins remain shrouded in mystery. Sites like Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, Gunung Padang in Indonesia, and Nabta Playa in Egypt speak of human hands shaping stone long before the emergence of agriculture, before the first cities took root along the fertile rivers of Mesopotamia. The scale, the sophistication, and the alignment of these structures challenge the conventional timeline, prompting a question that echoes softly in the mind. Who built them, and why? Göbekli Tepe, perhaps the most famous of these ancient monuments, is a collection of circular enclosures formed from massive T-shaped pillars, each carved with mysterious symbols, animals, abstract patterns, and motifs that seem to carry meaning long lost to us. Radiocarbon dating places its construction around 9,600 BCE, predating Stonehenge by several millennia and predating organized farming. What is most striking is not just the size of the stones or the effort required to transport and erect them, but the evident planning, organization, and shared cultural vision behind their construction. This is not the work of a small, scattered band of forgers. It suggests communal coordination, knowledge of architecture, and an understanding of ritual that feels far beyond what we associate with hunter-gatherer societies. In the silence of the site, one can almost sense the hands that carved the stones, the voices of those who gathered to create something meant to endure across the ages. Far across the globe, in Indonesia, Gunung Padang rises like a living memory pressed into the volcanic landscape. This megalithic site, terraced and layered with enormous stone blocks, has sparked debate and wonder among researchers. Radiometric dating of certain layers suggests that some parts of the site may be tens of thousands of years old, predating not only known civilizations in the region, but potentially reaching back into a time when the Earth's climate was dramatically different. Walking through Gunung Padang, one cannot help but notice the precision of the terraces, the careful placement of massive stones, and the patterns that echo both utility and symbolism. It is a place that forces reflection on the ingenuity of its builders and the impermanence of human memory, a civilization, perhaps thriving, whose traces remain only in stone and silence. In the deserts of southern Egypt, Nabta Playa offers another whisper of the ancient world. Scattered stones mark astronomical alignments, forming circles and structures that appear to have functioned as calendars, tracking the movement of stars, solstices, and celestial events. These alignments suggest a sophisticated understanding of astronomy at a time when conventional history tells us humans were still primarily nomadic herders. The meticulous placement of stones, the intentional orientation toward the heavens, and the evidence of repeated gatherings indicate a culture deeply attuned to both land and sky, capable of abstract thinking and precise measurement. Here again, we encounter the contrast between the known, the timeline of nomadic peoples and early farming, and the unknown, the evidence of deliberate, complex construction predating expectation. What binds these sites together is not just their monumental scale or their age, but the striking patterns that recur across continents. Massive stones carefully shaped and arranged, alignments with celestial bodies, ceremonial enclosures. These motifs appear in diverse, disconnected cultures separated by thousands of miles and millennia. It is as if human intuition, or perhaps knowledge lost and rediscovered, repeatedly reached similar conclusions about form, ritual, and cosmic order. The recurrence of such motifs challenges the notion that complex society and monumental construction began only in specific, historically recognized regions. It hints at the possibility of a shared memory, a global pattern, or civilizations that arose, flourished, and vanished long before the familiar timeline begins. The act of building these monuments was, in itself, extraordinary. Moving massive stones without the aid of modern machinery requires coordination, ingenuity, and a profound understanding of leverage and geometry. Each monument is evidence of collective effort sustained over generations, suggesting not fleeting experimentation but deeply ingrained cultural knowledge. The stones themselves, some weighing tens of tons, have survived millennia, outlasting the fragile materials of everyday life. Wood, clay, and textiles preserve as enduring testimony to human ambition. Their survival allows us to glimpse, however faintly, the minds and hands that shaped them, the communities that planned and executed projects of astonishing scale. In a quiet, reflective way, these structures become conversations across time, their silent presence speaking to the persistence of human ingenuity even in ages we do not fully comprehend. The alignment of megaliths with astronomical phenomena is a particularly compelling mystery. Across continents, structures are oriented towards solstices, equinoxes, or specific stars, indicating a level of observational skill and abstract thought remarkable for the periods assigned to them. At Stonehenge, for instance, massive stones mark the summer solstice sunrise. At Nabta Playa, stone circles align with stellar patterns. At Newgrange in Ireland, sunlight floods a chamber precisely on the winter solstice. These alignments suggest that early humans were not merely surviving. They were observing, calculating, and celebrating the patterns of the cosmos. The repetition of such sophisticated practice across time and space prompts reflection on knowledge that may have been lost, erased by the quiet, unstoppable currents of history and environmental change. Even more intriguing are the symbolic carvings and motifs that adorn these monuments. Animals, abstract patterns, serpentine forms, and geometric designs appear repeatedly, often with no clear explanation. These carvings speak to thought and culture beyond mere survival, hinting at spirituality, ritual, and communication. They suggest an awareness of the human mind as a participant in a larger cosmic order, a desire to embed meaning into stone that will outlast generations. In some cases, the carvings echo patterns seen in distant regions, raising questions about shared knowledge or convergent development across isolated societies. The mysteries embedded in these stones are subtle yet compelling, whispering of civilizations whose worldviews were profoundly complex, yet whose voices have been silenced by time. The distribution of megalithic sites also challenges conventional assumptions about population and civilization. They appear in remote locations, deserts, mountains, and plains, suggesting mobility, adaptation, and a capacity for monumental work even in challenging environments. Their very placement, often in locations that require effort to reach, suggests purpose beyond utility, ceremonial, spiritual, or observational. The builders engage with their landscapes in a deliberate, thoughtful manner, shaping the world not only physically but conceptually. In this context, megaliths are more than stone. They're ideas cast into permanence, echoes of human thought rendered tangible for millennia. Their survival invites calm contemplation, a meditation on ingenuity that transcends the known historical timeline. Perhaps the most profound lesson these monuments offer is the contrast between permanence and impermanence. Stone endures, but the people who built it, their daily lives, and the societies they formed often vanish without a trace. The silence surrounding these sites is as significant as the stones themselves. What is visible? A circle of massive pillars, a terraced hill, a carefully aligned stone, represents only a fraction of the original culture. The rest, swept away by climate change, geological upheaval, or the quiet erosion of memory, remains invisible. This juxtaposition, the enduring physicality of stone versus the fragility of human society, invites reflection. It teaches that civilization is both ephemeral and monumental, fleeting in its presence, but capable of leaving traces that endure far beyond a single lifetime. In walking among these megaliths, one experiences both awe and serenity. The scale of the work humbles the mind, yet the calm symmetry, the deliberate alignments, and the rhythm of construction offer a gentle reassurance. The builders, though long gone, left a legacy not of dominance, but of contemplation, of observing the heavens, of connecting with the land, and of leaving a mark upon the earth that persists. They remind us that human curiosity and creativity are ancient, deep-rooted forces that transcend the official timeline of civilization. The megaliths invite us to slow our minds, to reflect on the patience and vision required to create something that will speak across millennia, and to recognize that the human story may extend far further back than we have ever imagined. As the sun rises or sets, casting long shadows across these silent stones, it becomes evident that megalithic monuments are not merely historical artifacts. They are touchstones of mystery. They exist at the boundary between known and unknown, evidence and enigma. They suggest that humanity's early chapters are richer, more intricate, and perhaps more advanced than conventional timelines allow. Each site, each stone, each carefully aligned pillar carries within it the faint heartbeat of a civilization long past, a civilization that thought, measured, and built with a vision that still resonates today. In contemplating these monuments, we are drawn deeper into the question that frames our entire journey. Who were the people that came before, and what secrets of knowledge and culture have been buried by the relentless passage of deep time? Across continents separated by thousands of miles and by vast oceans, patterns begin to emerge, subtle echoes of thought, architecture, and ritual that suggest a shared vision or, at the very least, recurring human ingenuity. When we examine megalithic structures, ancient calendars, and ritual sites scattered from South America to Southeast Asia, Europe to Africa, the similarities are striking. Polygonal masonry, astronomical alignments, ceremonial enclosures, and monumental terraces appear again and again, often in cultures that conventional history suggests never interacted. The repetition of these motifs raises a quiet, persistent question. Are these coincidences the natural outcome of human intuition or remnants of knowledge carried across time and space, perhaps by civilizations now lost to memory? Consider the precision of polygonal masonry, where massive stones are carved and fitted together with astonishing accuracy. In South America, the Inca perfected this technique, shaping granite blocks that fit together without mortar, surviving earthquakes that would crumble ordinary structures. Yet, in Europe, similar polygonal walls appear in the Cyclades, in Italy, and in parts of Greece, often dating thousands of years before the Inca civilization. In Japan, the megaliths at Mount Ibuki and other sites display a comparable precision. Across these disconnected regions, there is a recurring motif, stone-shaped and aligned in a way that demonstrates both mathematical understanding and an aesthetic sensibility. The consistency is subtle, almost imperceptible at first, but it hints at an underlying pattern, a whisper from ancient builders whose techniques echo across millennia. Astronomical alignment is another thread woven through distant cultures. From the towering stones of Stonehenge to the circular enclosures of Nabta Playa, from the pyramids of Egypt to the ceremonial mounds of Cahokia, humans have oriented monuments towards solstices, equinoxes, and specific stellar configurations. The patterns are not random. They require careful observation, precise calculation, and long-term commitment to design. That such knowledge appears independently in widely separated cultures challenges the assumption that complex astronomy arose solely in Mesopotamia or Egypt. It suggests that early humans, wherever they were attuned to the rhythms of the cosmos, observing the sun, moon, and stars with a curiosity and sophistication that transcends geography. The recurrence of these alignments acts like a quiet thread connecting human minds across space and time, revealing a shared engagement with the universe. Stepped pyramids and terrace constructions offer another example. In the Americas, the Maya and Aztec built monumental step pyramids that served ceremonial, astronomical, and social functions. Far away, in Mesopotamia and Egypt, similar forms appear, adapted to local materials and beliefs, yet strikingly reminiscent in their overall concept. Even in Southeast Asia, Gunung Padang presents a layered, terraced structure with enormous stones, suggesting complex planning and social organization long before the earliest known regional civilizations. The recurrence of these forms is suggestive, if not conclusive, that certain architectural ideas may arise repeatedly wherever human societies develop the capacity for monumental construction. Whether through coincidence, independent discovery, or knowledge inherited from a forgotten predecessor, the echoes are undeniable, compelling the mind to linger in contemplation. Water management and engineering further highlight these parallels. Ancient peoples in different regions developed canals, reservoirs, and aqueducts, demonstrating both practical ingenuity and long-term planning. The city of Mohenjo-daro in the Indus Valley displayed a sophisticated sewage system long before similar technologies appeared elsewhere. In South America, pre-Columbian civilizations built terraces and irrigation systems that maximized agricultural output in challenging environments. Across the deserts of Egypt and the floodplains of Africa, canals and storage basins reveal a careful management of water resources. Despite the differences in climate and culture, the solutions bear remarkable similarity, suggesting a convergence of practical knowledge, or perhaps the inheritance of methods from prior, now-lost societies. Even symbolic and ritual elements echo across continents. Circular stone arrangements, serpent motifs, sun worship, and other symbolic forms recur in cultures separated by thousands of years and thousands of miles. In Mesoamerica, the feathered serpent deity Quetzalcoatl appears, while in Mesopotamia, serpentine symbolism is also prevalent in early mythology. In ancient Europe, spirals and circular motifs adorn megaliths and carvings, representing cycles of life, death, and time. These repeated symbols hint at universal themes in human cognition, yet their exact correspondence, often paired with similar architectural forms, raises the possibility that memory or knowledge was transmitted across generations or through cultural contact long before written history records it. The patterns suggest that humans, even in isolation, are capable of arriving at remarkably similar solutions to spiritual, social, and environmental challenges. The distribution of these patterns is equally compelling. They do not appear randomly or exclusively in isolated hubs of civilization. Rather, they manifest in diverse ecological and geographic contexts. From deserts and mountains to river valleys and coastal plains, the recurrence of sophisticated construction, astronomical observation, and symbolic representation indicates a shared capacity for abstract thought and long-term planning. Such consistency invites reflection on human ingenuity and the possibility of civilizations whose knowledge we have only glimpsed in fragments. The parallels are neither overwhelming nor conclusive, yet they form a subtle lattice of hints and questions, gently encouraging the mind to consider possibilities that stretch beyond conventional timelines. Moreover, the persistence of certain technical skills across cultures raises further curiosity. Stone shaping, precise alignments, terracing, and hydraulic engineering appear again and again, often in societies that, according to established history, lacked direct contact. Could these skills have emerged independently as part of human intuition, or might they represent faint traces of an earlier, more widespread civilization whose knowledge seeped into the consciousness of disparate peoples? The answer remains unknown, but the very recurrence of these techniques is hypnotic, drawing the imagination forward, encouraging the listener to drift slowly across continents, linking site to site, epoch to epoch, in a meditation on shared human creativity and its hidden origins. The anomalies are not only architectural, but also cultural. Many ancient societies describe advanced beings, teachers, or progenitors who brought knowledge suddenly to humans, bridging a gap between primal survival and complex civilization. From the Apkallu of Mesopotamia to the Oans of Sumerian myth, from Quetzalcoatl in Mesoamerica to Viracocha in the Andes, legends tell of figures who introduced agriculture, astronomy, writing, or societal law. While these myths are not literal history, their recurrence across widely separated cultures mirrors the architectural and technical echoes we observe. They form a second, more ethereal lattice, stories that may preserve memory in symbolic form, hints of civilizations or knowledge long erased, transmitted through narrative rather than stone. The combination of physical echoes and mythic echoes paints a picture both subtle and profound. Across continents and ages, humans demonstrate an innate desire to measure the sky, to manipulate stone, to encode meaning in structure, and to commemorate knowledge. Even in isolation, patterns emerge that defy pure chance, suggesting either an interconnected past that is now largely invisible or recurring impulses that drive human creativity in remarkably similar ways. This delicate patterning, half observed and half guesswork, invites the mind into a calm contemplation of what might have existed before history as we know it, and what knowledge may have persisted, carried silently through generations, only to resurface in the monuments, myths, and structures we now study. And so, we begin to sense that the ancient world is not a series of isolated, disconnected events, but a vast, interwoven landscape of ideas, techniques, and symbols. Some patterns may indeed arise independently, shaped by the shared conditions of human existence. Others may represent fragments of lost knowledge, scattered and preserved across time and space. The repetition of architectural forms, astronomical alignments, symbolic motifs, and practical techniques forms a quiet, meditative rhythm, a thread that carries the mind gently forward. It leads naturally to reflection on the forces that might have erased earlier civilizations, on cataclysms both natural and environmental that swept across continents, leaving only whispers of human ingenuity behind. In contemplating these echoes, one experiences a calm tension. The mind oscillates between known history and unknown possibilities, between the artifacts that are concrete and the patterns that are inferred. The contrast is not jarring. It is soothing, like observing a faint constellation in a twilight sky. It encourages the listener to slow their pace, to reflect on the persistence and fragility of human civilization, and to entertain the notion that entire societies, with knowledge and sophistication rivaling our own, may have arisen and vanished long before the timeline we accept today. These echoes, subtle yet persistent, prepare the mind for the next chapter, examining the cataclysms and global events that may have buried these civilizations, preserving only hints in stone, soil, and story. Beneath the veneer of human achievement, beneath the monuments, tools, and patterns that suggest intelligence across continents, lies the quiet, relentless force of nature. Cataclysms have shaped the earth for eons, quietly erasing the traces of civilizations long before written history could capture their existence. Ice ages, floods, volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, and shifting coastlines have repeatedly remade the world, leaving only fragments of human activity in their wake. When we consider the possibility of civilizations far older than those documented in textbooks, we must also consider the environments in which they lived and the immense natural forces that could have swallowed their works, leaving stones scattered, cities submerged, and memory dissolved into myth. The end of the last ice age, roughly 12,000 years ago, brought dramatic transformations to the planet. Vast glaciers retreated, sea levels rose, and coastlines shifted in ways that are almost impossible for the human imagination to fully grasp. Areas once inhabited became submerged beneath oceans. Fertile plains turned to deserts. Rivers changed course, erasing the familiar markers of human settlement. Entire regions, once thriving with human activity, vanished from the landscape, leaving behind only subtle traces embedded in sediment or deep underwater. Archaeologists now explore submerged coastlines in search of evidence, slowly revealing that humans were far more widespread and adaptable than previously assumed. Yet much remains hidden, lost to the rising seas and the shifting landscapes of a world in motion. Beyond these gradual transformations, sudden cataclysms also played a critical role in shaping history. Massive volcanic eruptions, like that of Mount Toba some 74,000 years ago, dramatically altered climate conditions, triggering volcanic winters, widespread ecological disruption, and potentially profound impacts on human populations. Similarly, enormous floods, some triggered by melting ice sheets and others by the collapse of natural dams, could have erased entire settlements, reshaping rivers and plains and depositing layers of sediment that obscure earlier human activity. Earthquakes and tsunamis, recurring across geological time, swept away coastal communities, leaving only fragments for future discovery. In the face of these events, human constructions, no matter how monumental, were vulnerable. Stone monuments could be toppled, cities buried, and knowledge lost to the relentless forces of nature. It is also worth contemplating the subtle, cumulative impact of erosion and geological processes. Mountains rise and crumble, rivers meander and carve valleys, deserts expand and contract. Over millennia, entire landscapes transform so dramatically that the traces of human habitation, even sophisticated constructions, can vanish almost entirely. What we now consider natural formations, peculiar hills, terraces, or rock formations, may in some cases be the remnants of ancient human work, disguised by time and environmental change. In this sense, cataclysms are not only dramatic events, but also quiet, persistent processes that steadily erase the past, creating gaps in our understanding and leaving only the faintest hints for those willing to look. Climatic shifts, in particular, played a crucial role in the rise and fall of civilizations. Prolonged droughts, shifts in monsoon patterns, or sudden cooling periods could decimate agriculture-dependent societies, forcing migration or collapse. Evidence from pollen cores, lake sediments, and ice cores suggests that some regions experienced extreme climatic fluctuations, creating conditions in which even well-established communities could vanish. The echoes of these events are faint but pervasive: abandoned terraces, buried settlements, and soil layers that hint at catastrophic environmental change. When paired with archaeological anomalies, these climatic signals suggest that civilizations capable of monumental construction may have been repeatedly disrupted or obliterated by forces beyond their control, leaving their legacy hidden beneath layers of earth and time. The story of lost civilizations is inseparable from these cataclysms because they provide a plausible explanation for the abrupt appearance and disappearance of advanced knowledge. Consider the archaeological record. Sophisticated monuments emerge, flourish for centuries, and then vanish, leaving scant evidence of the societies that created them. Could climate change, volcanic eruptions, or rising seas have obliterated entire urban centers, leaving only stones, terraces, and faint oral traditions? The silence of these civilizations is consistent with the known power of natural disasters to erase human presence. Each stone left standing is both a survivor and a question, a remnant of what once was, and an invitation to imagine the scale and sophistication of societies erased from the historical narrative. Submerged landscapes tell their own story. Archaeologists have begun exploring ancient coastlines, now beneath meters of ocean, uncovering tools, dwellings, and other traces that hint at human activity predating recorded history. These underwater sites suggest that humans thrived in areas now lost to the sea, creating settlements and possibly monuments whose memory was swept away by rising waters. The thought is both humbling and mesmerizing. Entire chapters of human history may lie hidden beneath waves, silently waiting for patient discovery. Every artifact recovered from these submerged worlds serves as a bridge, connecting the present to a past that is almost unimaginable, yet undeniably real. Volcanic eruptions and tectonic upheavals further complicate the narrative. Sites like the Aegean Islands, affected by the eruption of Thera, Santorini, or regions along the Pacific Ring of Fire, illustrate the dramatic vulnerability of civilizations to sudden geologic events. Cities could be buried under ash, landscapes altered beyond recognition, and survivors scattered. Oral traditions and mythic accounts of floods, fires, and falling skies may be dim recollections of these events, encoded symbolically and passed down across generations. These stories, often dismissed as myth, may contain kernels of historical truth, pointing to cataclysms that repeatedly reshaped human settlement and cultural continuity. They hint at a rhythm of rise and fall, creation and destruction, that is far older than the familiar timeline of recorded history. Even the small, quiet processes soil deposition, erosion, sediment accumulation have profound implications for what survives. Tools, carvings, and buildings can be buried for millennia, slowly hidden from view, only to be revealed through careful excavation. What seems missing in the archaeological record may not indicate absence, but concealment, a history preserved in geological layers rather than documents. The Earth itself becomes a guardian of memory, keeping evidence safe yet inaccessible, allowing only glimpses of lost civilizations to reach us through anomalies, megaliths, and subtle geological markers. In contemplating these processes, we gain an appreciation for the fragility of human knowledge and the patience required to uncover it. The interplay between cataclysm and survival also invites reflection on human resilience. Even in the face of dramatic environmental change, populations adapted, migrated, and rebuilt. Knowledge was preserved in fragments, passed orally, or embedded in ritual and construction. While many civilizations may have vanished entirely, leaving only echoes, others evolved, absorbing elements of earlier cultures into new forms. This dynamic underscores the continuity of human ingenuity even amidst disappearance and disaster. It suggests that lost civilizations may not be entirely gone, but live on subtly, influencing those that follow, their ideas buried, submerged, or encoded in ways that challenge conventional understanding. As we meditate on these forces, the contrast between permanence and impermanence becomes striking. Stone monuments endure, yet entire societies vanish. Knowledge survives in traces, yet the full context may be irretrievable. Cataclysms act as both destroyers and preservers, simultaneously obliterating evidence and embedding fragments in layers that will endure for millennia. The tension between what is lost and what remains provides a quiet, reflective rhythm, drawing the mind slowly through time, encouraging contemplation of the vastness of deep history. In this rhythm, we find both humility and wonder. The earth is patient, human endeavor is fragile, and yet glimpses of past brilliance persist, waiting for discovery. Through this lens, the anomalies, the megaliths, and the global echoes we have explored take on new meaning. They are not isolated mysteries, but elements of a broader pattern shaped by natural forces that have repeatedly erased and preserved civilizations. Cataclysms provide a plausible explanation for the silence surrounding ancient ingenuity, for the abrupt appearance and disappearance of knowledge, and for the subtle traces that endure in stone, sediment, and myth. They invite the imagination to wander across lost landscapes, to consider civilizations submerged by seas, buried beneath ash, or erased by glaciers, and to reflect on the resilience and ingenuity of humans who, time and again, adapted, survived, and built anew. And so, as we consider the role of cataclysms in shaping human history, a quiet tension settles in the mind. The contrast between human ambition and the inexorable power of nature is both humbling and mesmerizing. The earth preserves and erases with equal patience, leaving behind fragments, anomalies, and monuments that speak softly across millennia. These reminders invite calm reflection, gentle curiosity, and the slow unfolding of questions rather than answers. In the silence of deep time, the story of lost civilizations emerges not in certainty, but in whispers, hints, and subtle patterns, preparing us to move naturally into the next exploration. The mysteries preserved in myth, legend, and the stories passed down across generations. Long before the first scribes put quill to clay, before cities were carefully documented in stone or papyrus, human societies preserved memory in stories. Myths, legends, and oral traditions served as living archives, quietly transmitting knowledge, values, and warnings across generations. In the calm repetition of words spoken around fires, under the canopy of night, or across the vast open plains, humans encoded understanding of the natural world, of human behavior, and perhaps of events and civilizations now lost to history. These stories, while often wrapped in metaphor, symbolism, and supernatural motifs, may carry echoes of reality, subtle hints of knowledge buried beneath time, catastrophe, and cultural transformation. Consider the flood myths that appear with remarkable consistency across widely separated cultures. From the Epic of Gilgamesh in Mesopotamia to the story of Manu in India, from the biblical account of Noah to the flood narratives of the Americas and Oceania, civilizations speak of waters rising to engulf the land, of survival, of new beginnings. While modern scholars often interpret these stories symbolically, as reflections of human psychology or local flooding events, it is difficult to ignore the striking similarities. Vast waters, destruction of cities, chosen survivors, and the preservation of knowledge or life. These shared motifs may point toward memories of global or regional cataclysms, subtle cultural echoes of events that obliterated early civilizations, leaving only myth as a record. In this sense, legends serve as fragile threads connecting the known past to the almost invisible past. Beyond floods, myths frequently describe beings of extraordinary knowledge or technology interacting with early humans. Ancient texts often depict gods, sages, or cultural heroes imparting skills in agriculture, metallurgy, astronomy, or governance. The Apkallu of Mesopotamia, described as semi-divine teachers of wisdom, bring knowledge to humans. The Oans of Sumerian lore emerges from the water to instruct civilization in arts and law. Quetzalcoatl in Mesoamerica is portrayed as a culture bringer, introducing essential skills to early societies. These figures, whether interpreted as literal, symbolic, or mythological, share common traits. They transmit knowledge suddenly, bridging gaps between primitive understanding and sophisticated practices. Could these stories be distorted memories of lost civilizations, earlier societies whose knowledge persisted in fragmented form long after their disappearance? Oral traditions also preserve warnings and lessons about environmental hazards, natural disasters, and societal collapse. Stories of burning skies, thunderous upheaval, or sinking lands appear in cultures separated by continents and millennia. Indigenous peoples in Australia and North America recount tales of massive storms, changing coastlines, and shifting rivers. In South America, legends speak of mountains erupting and rivers overflowing, coinciding with archaeological evidence of volcanic activity and floods. The careful preservation of these tales may reflect an acute awareness of environmental forces, an attempt to encode experience in narrative form, and perhaps a faint memory of civilizations destroyed by such events. Myths, in this light, are not merely fanciful stories but repositories of observation, wisdom, and warning transmitted across generations with remarkable fidelity. Symbolism within myths frequently parallels the physical patterns observed in architecture and artifacts. Circular structures, spirals, serpents, and celestial motifs appear repeatedly in legend and in megalithic construction alike. Spirals, for instance, recur in prehistoric carvings, representing cycles of life, death, and renewal, and appear in oral traditions as metaphors for time, the cosmos, and human existence. Serpents, similarly, appear in carvings, architecture, and stories, often symbolizing knowledge, continuity, and power. These recurring motifs suggest that human cognition across cultures may converge on similar ideas, or perhaps that some symbolic language originates from a time predating the histories we accept. Myths, in this sense, become a bridge, connecting physical traces of ancient ingenuity with the cognitive patterns and cultural memory that survive cataclysms and millennia of change. The geographic distribution of myths adds another layer to the mystery. Certain stories, despite vast distances and lack of apparent contact, share structural and thematic similarities. Heroic journeys, floods, sky beings, and cultural gifts are motifs that appear independently in Africa, the Americas, Asia, and Oceania. While these patterns can be partially explained by common psychological archetypes, the consistency, specificity, and alignment with known archaeological anomalies suggest that there may be more at play. Oral traditions may preserve faint memory of human experience that predates recognized civilizations, encoding environmental events, technological knowledge, and societal practices in symbolic form. Myths thus provide a second lens through which to explore the traces of lost civilizations, complementing the tangible evidence of artifacts and megaliths. Even in cases where myths are fantastical, they often encode practical information. Navigation techniques, agricultural practices, and celestial observations are embedded in story, rhythm, and verse. Polynesian navigators, for instance, transmitted knowledge of star positions, ocean currents, and seasonal winds through song and narrative, enabling long-distance oceanic exploration. Such methods demonstrate how memory and practical knowledge could be preserved in oral form long before writing was invented. Could ancient myths, similarly, preserve knowledge from civilizations lost to cataclysms, encoded in a language of metaphor, symbol, and repetition? It is a subtle possibility, one that invites calm reflection rather than immediate conclusion. The combination of myth, legend, and oral tradition with archaeological evidence creates a quiet tension between the known and the unknown. On one hand, myths may reflect imagination, morality, or spiritual concerns. On the other hand, they may serve as vessels of cultural memory, hinting at events, technologies, or civilizations that conventional timelines overlook. This duality is central to the study of lost civilizations, as it allows us to approach these stories with curiosity and patience, listening for patterns, echoes, and coincidences rather than demanding definitive answers. In the gentle rhythm of reflection, myths become a form of time travel, allowing the imagination to bridge millennia and connect with human experience, now largely invisible. In contemplating myths alongside archaeological anomalies, a profound insight emerges. Human memory is resilient yet fragile. Cataclysms may erase cities and monuments, yet they cannot entirely erase the human impulse to remember, to encode experience, and to pass knowledge forward. Storytelling becomes a repository of collective wisdom, a soft but enduring link between civilizations that rise and fall. Legends preserve fragments of lost knowledge in forms that challenge interpretation but reward patience, offering glimpses of complexity, technological insight, and environmental understanding from societies that conventional history cannot fully account for. And so, as night settles over the ancient landscapes, myths become companions to stone, artifacts, and cataclysms. They whisper across time, suggesting civilizations that flourished and vanished, knowledge that was gained, lost, and partially preserved, and patterns of human thought that recur across the globe. The listener is invited into this calm contemplation, tracing the gentle threads that connect story, stone, and anomaly. The stage is set for further exploration. As myths suggest memory preserved, so too do scattered ruins, submerged settlements, and hidden artifacts provide tangible evidence. Together, they form a tapestry of possibility, a landscape in which humanity's origins are far deeper, stranger, and richer than the textbooks admit. In the end, myths do not demand belief, but attention. They encourage reflection on the impermanence of human endeavor, the resilience of memory, and the possibility that civilizations, sophisticated and ancient, have existed long before the familiar milestones of history. They prepare the mind to receive new patterns, to contemplate cataclysms, anomalies, and architectural echoes in harmony, and to accept the uncertainty of deep time with calm curiosity. Within these stories, the whispers of lost civilizations persist, inviting us to explore not only the physical remnants of our ancestors, but the imagination, memory, and cultural continuity that survived against the currents of time. Among the stones, myths, and scattered remnants of ancient civilizations, there exists a more subtle and perplexing thread, the evidence of knowledge and technology that seems far ahead of its supposed time. These artifacts and structures suggest that our ancestors, or perhaps unknown civilizations that came before them, understood principles of engineering, astronomy, and material science in ways that continue to astonish modern scholars. Unlike the monumental stones of megaliths, these technological traces are often smaller, concealed, or integrated into everyday life. Yet their existence challenges the simplicity often assumed for early societies. Tools, devices, and even mechanical components have been uncovered that hint at sophistication lost and rediscovered, raising quiet, persistent questions about the breadth of human understanding across deep time. Consider the Antikythera mechanism, discovered in a shipwreck off the coast of Greece in the early 20th century. This intricate assembly of bronze gears, capable of predicting eclipses and tracking the movements of celestial bodies, dates back over 2,000 years. Its complexity is extraordinary, a clockwork of precise calculations and mechanical ingenuity far beyond what scholars once believed possible for its era. Similar, though less famous, artifacts have been found elsewhere, including metal objects embedded in ancient rock strata or inscriptions that imply knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, and engineering well before formal records indicate. These finds do not merely surprise, they unsettle, suggesting that advanced knowledge may have existed, been lost, and occasionally resurfaced in fragments throughout history. Equally fascinating are examples of early metallurgy that challenge conventional timelines. Ancient civilizations worked with alloys and metals in ways that appear astonishingly sophisticated. Bronze tools, intricate gold ornaments, and iron implements predate established historical frameworks in some cases, raising questions about the transmission of technical knowledge. Certain metallurgical processes, such as quenching, annealing, or alloying, require observation, experimentation, and skill. The presence of these techniques long before they were thought to exist implies either independent invention multiple times across the globe or the survival of knowledge from earlier, possibly forgotten civilizations. The subtle evidence of these practices, embedded in tools and ornaments, becomes a quiet testimony to human ingenuity persisting beneath the layers of conventional history. Even more remarkable are devices that seem to embody mechanical understanding in surprising contexts. Carvings, small tools, and objects resembling gear systems, often overlooked in early archaeological surveys, suggest principles of motion, leverage, and calculation. While the precise function of many such artifacts remains uncertain, their existence raises the possibility of engineering knowledge previously unrecognized. Some scholars propose that these objects may have been used for calendrical purposes, astronomical observation, or ceremonial functions, though the full extent of their application remains speculative. The ambiguity itself is compelling, for it invites the imagination to consider civilizations whose understanding of the natural world may have been more sophisticated than the surviving evidence allows us to see. Astronomy, too, emerges as a consistent marker of early sophistication. From observatories embedded in megalithic structures to alignments encoded in artifacts and monuments, early humans demonstrated remarkable observational skills. Sites such as Nabta Playa, the alignment of pyramids in Egypt, and the structures at Stonehenge reflect not only precision but an abstract comprehension of celestial cycles. These alignments suggest knowledge of solstices, equinoxes, and perhaps even precession, the slow wobble of the Earth over millennia. The repetition of such knowledge across distant cultures, sometimes separated by thousands of miles and with no apparent direct contact, points toward either convergent evolution of understanding or a faint survival of techniques and observations from lost civilizations. In either case, it challenges assumptions about the linear progression of human knowledge. Mathematics and measurement, often implicit in these structures and devices, provide another lens into early ingenuity. The careful proportioning of stones, the calibration of instruments, and the geometric precision of constructions suggest an awareness of ratios, angles, and spatial relationships. These skills are not superficial. They reflect sustained observation, practice, and perhaps teaching over generations. Even in societies considered primitive by conventional frameworks, these principles were embedded in architecture, tools, and ceremonial arrangements. When combined with astronomical alignment and mechanical artifacts, mathematics appears as an underlying thread, binding disparate knowledge into a coherent framework that transcends time and geography. Engineering, too, emerges quietly in the design of terrace constructions, water management systems, and infrastructure that facilitated agriculture, settlement, and ritual practice. Terraces in South America, reservoirs in the Indus Valley, and canals in Egypt illustrate an understanding of hydrology, soil mechanics, and urban planning that was often highly localized yet astonishingly effective. These feats required careful observation, experimentation, and sustained social organization. That such engineering knowledge was developed independently in multiple locations or possibly transmitted through lost civilizations underscores the resilience and continuity of human ingenuity, even in societies often dismissed as primitive or early. Some of the most intriguing evidence comes from anomalies that defy easy explanation. Artifacts embedded in geological layers far older than conventional history suggests, sophisticated tools found in unexpected locations, or symbols that encode knowledge of mathematics and astronomy hint at a narrative of human or human-like intelligence stretching deeper into prehistory than accepted timelines allow. These anomalies are subtle, often fragmentary, yet their consistency across time and space invites meditation on the possibility of civilizations that flourished and vanished, leaving only traces. Unlike the monuments that dominate the landscape, these technological whispers are quiet, requiring careful attention to discern their significance. The recurrence of these technological elements in conjunction with myths, oral traditions, and monumental architecture forms a compelling tapestry. Myths of beings imparting knowledge, oral traditions preserving environmental awareness, and megaliths encoding celestial cycles all intersect with tangible artifacts demonstrating skill and understanding. Together, they suggest that knowledge may have survived, partially obscured, across generations, across catastrophic events, and across the vast sweep of deep time. The connection is subtle and often inferential, but it is persistent, creating a pattern of quiet, reflective curiosity that is both compelling and hypnotic. Even tools associated with daily life carry hints of sophistication. Implements for agriculture, hunting, or crafting often display unexpected precision, ergonomic consideration, and material understanding. These small objects, while mundane in appearance, reflect the application of knowledge over time, encoded in practical design. In combination with larger monuments, astronomical observations, and symbolic representations, they reveal a society or societies capable of complex thought, adaptation, and innovation, even in eras conventionally considered simple or primitive. The continuity of practical and theoretical knowledge suggests a rhythm of human experience, innovation, and preservation that repeats quietly across deep history. In reflecting upon these artifacts and technologies, one begins to see a broader landscape of possibility. Advanced understanding, whether in mechanics, astronomy, metallurgy, or mathematics, may have arisen repeatedly, only to be interrupted by cataclysms, climate change, or the disappearance of societies. Knowledge, like water, can be preserved, diverted, buried, or lost, resurfacing in fragments and echoes across the globe. In this sense, the study of anomalies, artifacts, and early technologies becomes a meditation on both human potential and the impermanence of achievement. It invites a patient, contemplative approach, allowing the mind to drift across time and space, weighing evidence without demanding immediate conclusions. And so, as we consider these enigmatic technologies, a sense of quiet wonder emerges. The juxtaposition of advanced knowledge with deep time, of anomalies with myths and monuments, creates a reflective rhythm that encourages curiosity, contemplation, and humility. The artifacts, the stories, and the architectural marvels all point to the possibility that human, or human-like, intelligence is older, more resilient, and more sophisticated than the linear histories we have inherited suggest. The gentle tension between known and unknown, fact and mystery, technology and legend, draws the listener forward, inviting them to continue the journey into the deeper patterns, the hidden connections, and the lingering questions that define the exploration of lost civilizations. The vastness of Earth's most extreme landscapes, where life seems sparse and silence reigns, holds secrets that have long escaped human eyes. In the frozen expanse of Antarctica, beneath its seemingly unbroken sheets of ice, scientists have uncovered evidence that hints at a far more dynamic past. Ancient forests, buried riverbeds, and inexplicable geological formations speak of a time when this continent was green, alive, and perhaps even inhabited. These discoveries remind us that the Earth's surface is far from static. It is a palimpsest of forgotten worlds, layered upon one another, with each ice age, each climatic shift erasing traces of what once was. The contrast between the icy, inhospitable present and the fertile, mysterious past evokes both awe and quiet reflection, inviting listeners to consider how much of history may lie hidden, preserved in deep, frozen time. Moving from ice to sand, the deserts of the world carry a similar weight of forgotten history. The Gobi Desert, the Sahara, and the remote expanses of Central Asia are littered with the remnants of civilizations that rose and fell long before the written word. Here, dry winds sweep over ancient riverbeds, now vanished, revealing faint traces of structures, roads, or even burial sites, their outlines ghostly against the sand. Petroglyphs etched into stone tell stories of creatures, people, and events that might never be fully understood. Each grain of sand seems to whisper secrets of lives lived and societies lost, preserved in an environment harsh enough to resist the eroding hand of time. It is in these extremes, the frozen silence of polar lands and the scorching, shifting deserts, that the tension between permanence and impermanence is most striking. Ice preserves and hides in equal measure, holding clues beneath kilometers of frozen water, while sand slowly erases, reshaping landscapes and burying human traces beneath endless dunes. The discovery of structures or artifacts in such environments, often against all expectations, challenges our assumptions about the resilience and spread of early human civilizations. Could some of these extreme regions have been home to complex societies long before our current timeline suggests? Submerged beneath glaciers or hidden within sands. Anomalies like buried stones arranged in regular patterns, fossilized footprints, or remnants of sophisticated tools suggest that humanity, or perhaps another form of intelligent life, once moved across these lands in ways modern science struggles to fully explain. In Antarctica, sonar scans have revealed vast underwater formations resembling what could be natural plateaus, or perhaps remnants of settlements now swallowed by the sea or covered by ice. The very idea that a frozen wasteland could conceal evidence of past life or even lost civilizations evokes both wonder and a gentle unease, reinforcing the theme that what we see is rarely all there is. The deserts, too, keep their own secrets. Remote Saharan oases, long abandoned, contain traces of extensive trade routes, irrigation systems, and settlements that flourished in climates very different from the arid present. The shifting sands sometimes uncover tools or ceramics that are impossible to date neatly within accepted historical frameworks, hinting at forgotten eras where human ingenuity reached heights we can only glimpse today. Even faint petroglyphs or carved symbols evoke narratives lost to time, their meaning obscured yet powerfully suggestive, allowing the imagination to wander freely across the epochs. In these quiet, remote places, one begins to sense the vast scale of time itself, the deep, unrelenting flow of Earth's history that dwarfs human lifetimes. The frozen glaciers and shifting deserts remind us that civilizations rise and fall not only through human endeavor, but in dialogue with the planet itself. Their secrets lie waiting, sometimes partially revealed, sometimes wholly hidden, daring us to look closer, to think beyond conventional timelines, and to accept that the known world may be only the surface of a far deeper reality. By listening to these landscapes, one can almost hear whispers of lives, cultures, and knowledge lost, waiting patiently beneath ice, sand, and stone for those willing to seek them. Across the vast tapestry of human history, stories and myths have traveled like whispers carried on the wind, passing from one generation to the next, often surviving long after the societies that created them have vanished. These myths, while often fantastical and poetic, may hold fragments of memory that hint at real events, places, or even civilizations long lost. Floods that swallowed entire regions, fire that rained from the sky, skybound beings with knowledge beyond human understanding. Such motifs appear repeatedly across continents, separated by thousands of miles and millennia, suggesting a shared resonance that is difficult to dismiss. The human imagination, it seems, not only invents but remembers, encoding history into narrative, allegory, and symbol. The contrast between the fantastical elements of myth and their potential historical roots is striking. On one hand, these stories are fantastical, full of gods, monsters, and impossible journeys. On the other, persistent patterns, flood myths in Mesopotamia and India, serpent or dragon figures across Europe and Asia, stories of golden ages or sunken kingdoms, appear with remarkable consistency. Could these narratives be the last echoes of societies whose monuments and records were erased by cataclysm or time? By observing these patterns, one begins to sense that myths are not merely fanciful tales, but perhaps coded memories, a bridge between human consciousness and the hidden histories of our world. Oral traditions, in particular, offer subtle hints of continuity across ages. In remote villages, ancient songs and rituals preserve knowledge about the land, the sky, and human behavior that predates recorded history. Some of these rituals, when studied carefully, align with astronomical events, seasonal changes, or ecological cycles, suggesting a sophisticated understanding passed down through generations. Even when the original context has been lost, the patterns endure, offering glimpses into how humans once interacted with their environment and with each other. These echoes of the past, faint yet persistent, become almost tangible, inviting listeners to consider that human memory extends far beyond the limits of written history. Myths also carry profound psychological weight, speaking to the collective fears, hopes, and aspirations of humanity. Floods and fire, for instance, are not only geological or meteorological phenomena. They become metaphors for change, destruction, and rebirth. Civilizations rise, crumble, and vanish, but the narratives endure, suggesting that humanity has always sensed a continuity beyond its immediate experience. The repetition of themes across time and space implies that some events, some truths, were significant enough to imprint themselves on the collective consciousness, surviving the erosion of physical records. In this sense, myths act as a delicate thread, connecting us to distant ancestors and the worlds they inhabited, worlds that may no longer exist in the tangible, but which linger in the imagination. Exploring these patterns also invites contemplation of the gaps and silences within history. Just as ice and desert conceal physical evidence of ancient civilizations, myths and legends conceal intellectual and cultural knowledge, often hidden beneath layers of symbolism. By reading between the lines, by listening to the rhythms of recurring motifs, researchers and dreamers alike can piece together faint outlines of lost societies, their beliefs, their innovations, and their interactions with a world very different from our own. It becomes evident that what is recorded is only part of a much larger story, while what is transmitted through memory, however veiled, may carry truths that written documents never could. In the end, these myths and memories act as mirrors, reflecting both the fragility and resilience of human civilization. They remind us that even as buildings crumble, artifacts decay, and landscapes shift, the stories humans tell about themselves may endure far longer than stone or steel. By paying attention to these echoes, we begin to perceive patterns that hint at civilizations beyond our current understanding, a subtle and poetic proof that history may be far deeper and far stranger than we have ever imagined. As these patterns emerge, the mind is gently prepared for the next exploration. The enigmatic megastructures that stand as silent testaments to ingenuity, ambition, and mysteries still unsolved. Scattered across the continents are silent monuments that defy the passage of time, their very presence raising questions that history has yet to answer. These are the megalithic structures, immense stones meticulously placed, their origins shrouded in mystery. From the enigmatic circles of Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, older than the pyramids, to the precisely cut stones of Pumapunku in Bolivia, these structures challenge our understanding of ancient human capability. The contrast between their apparent sophistication and the simplicity traditionally attributed to the societies of their eras creates a sense of quiet awe, a feeling that the earth itself is whispering secrets we are only beginning to perceive. What is most remarkable is not merely the scale of these constructions, but the precision with which they were executed. Stones weighing dozens of tons were moved, shaped, and aligned in ways that modern machinery struggles to replicate. Some are carved with interlocking joints so exact that they seem almost engineered, resisting erosion and earthquakes across millennia. The narration draws attention to the calm contrast between human ambition and nature's impermanence. While civilizations rise and fall, these stones endure, standing as silent witnesses to ingenuity and mystery alike. They suggest knowledge, technique, and vision that seem to belong to a world far older and perhaps more advanced than our textbooks acknowledge. Patterns emerge in these structures that hint at cosmic awareness. Many align with celestial events, solstices, equinoxes, and the movements of planets. The placement and orientation of stones may encode astronomical knowledge, suggesting that their creators observed the heavens with precision and intent. This alignment between earth and sky evokes a profound sense of connection, as if the builders were reaching beyond the physical, attempting to bridge the human and the cosmic. Listeners are invited to dwell in this quiet contemplation, imagining hands, generations apart, working to preserve knowledge not in ink or paper, but in the permanence of stone. Yet the enigma deepens when we consider the global pattern of megalithic construction. From Europe to South America, from the Mediterranean to Southeast Asia, similar architectural wonders arise independently, often with astonishing parallels. Could this point to a shared human ingenuity, or perhaps to echoes of lost civilizations whose influence stretched across continents? The calm, reflective tone emphasizes wonder rather than speculation, allowing the audience to linger in the mystery without demanding immediate answers. Each site, each stone, becomes a meditation on human possibility, a whisper from the distant past urging us to consider what might have been. Some structures also hint at knowledge that extends beyond architecture. Intricate carvings, precise geometrical shapes, and the alignment of monuments with subterranean or water features suggest an understanding of engineering, hydraulics, and perhaps even mathematics that we are only beginning to comprehend. The combination of scale, precision, and purpose raises the quiet possibility that these megastructures were not mere shelters or monuments, but repositories of knowledge, ritual spaces, or even markers of long-lost civilizations. In observing them, one senses the weight of centuries, the patience of countless hands, and the persistence of human intention preserved against time's eroding tide. The emotional resonance of these megaliths is equally profound. There is a calm majesty in standing before stones that predate much of recorded history, in sensing the rhythm of labor, belief, and imagination that went into their creation. They evoke both awe and humility, offering a tangible connection to lives and minds that, while long gone, still speak through the enduring medium of stone. As a narration gently guides the listener through these marvels, the mind begins to stretch, considering not only what these structures were, but what they represent. The enduring spirit of creation, the persistence of human curiosity, and the mysteries that remain hidden beneath layers of time and earth. In the quiet reflection of these ancient constructions, one begins to see a subtle pattern. The human history may not be as linear as it seems, that our story could be a continuation of countless others, some lost, some remembered only in whispers. These megastructures stand as bridges to that hidden past, connecting us, ever so gently, to civilizations that may have walked the earth long before our own. They prepare the mind for the next journey, into the scientific frameworks that help us measure deep time, and the profound mysteries that lie between fact and speculation. Beneath the surface of our familiar landscapes lies a chronology far greater than the lifespan of any human civilization. Deep time stretches across millions, even billions of years, a scale so vast that it reshapes our understanding of existence itself. In this quiet exploration, the documentary turns its attention from the mysteries of lost civilizations to the scientific frameworks that allow us to measure the immensity of Earth's history. By observing the layers of rock, the patterns of ice, and the sediment of ancient seas, scientists have learned to read time like a manuscript written across the Earth itself. These methods reveal a story both precise and poetic, a planet that has undergone dramatic transformations, each era leaving behind subtle clues waiting to be discovered. Geologists examine strata of rock, each layer representing epochs of formation, collapse, and rebirth. Fossils embedded within these layers serve as markers of life long vanished, their forms preserved like tiny letters from a distant past. Ice cores, drawn from the heart of glaciers, hold within them frozen atmospheres, pollen grains, and volcanic ash, silent witnesses to climatic shifts that occurred tens of thousands of years ago. Through these natural archives, scientists can reconstruct the rise and fall of forests, deserts, and oceans, revealing a planet in constant motion. The contrast between these enduring processes and the fleeting span of human history offers a profound perspective. Our civilizations, however grand, are ephemeral whispers against the backdrop of deep time. Radiometric dating provides another key, a method of measuring the decay of elements within rocks and minerals to pinpoint the ages of formations with remarkable accuracy. By observing the ratios of isotopes such as carbon-14, uranium-238, and potassium-40, researchers can determine when layers were deposited, when life thrived, and when cataclysmic events reshaped the surface of the Earth. These measurements, when paired with archaeological findings, sometimes reveal startling anomalies, artifacts or structures whose existence challenges accepted timelines. Such findings quietly suggest that human history may be far older and more complex than conventional narratives allow, urging a reconsideration of what is truly known. Paleoclimatology, the study of ancient climates, adds yet another dimension to our understanding of deep time. By analyzing sediment cores from oceans, pollen records, and isotopic signatures in stalagmites and stalactites, scientists reconstruct the rhythms of the Earth's climate over hundreds of millennia. Ice ages, interglacial periods, and sudden shifts in temperature emerge not as abstract concepts, but as tangible forces that shaped the development or disappearance of life and human settlements. These patterns reveal a world where survival depended not only on ingenuity, but on timing, adaptation, and sometimes sheer chance. The lessons from deep time whisper a gentle reminder. Civilizations are not isolated phenomena. They exist in delicate balance with the forces of a vast, ever-changing planet. Astronomical data also plays a role in reading deep time, as the cycles of the Earth, Moon, and Sun leave indelible marks upon the planet. Milankovitch cycles, shifts in the tilt and orbit of Earth, influence climate and, in turn, the rise and fall of ecosystems. Solar activity, meteor impacts, and even cosmic radiation contribute to shaping the narrative of life on Earth. By combining geology, climatology, and astronomy, scientists build a coherent framework that allows the mind to wander across ages, imagining landscapes and skies vastly different from those we inhabit today. It is within this context that artifacts, myths, and megaliths take on new significance, situated not only in space, but within a vast temporal canvas. Understanding deep time also invites philosophical reflection. Human beings are accustomed to thinking in years, decades, and centuries, yet the Earth itself operates on scales far beyond comprehension. This perspective fosters humility and wonder, a calm awareness of our place within the vast continuum of existence. It is a bridge between the speculative worlds of lost civilizations and the rigorous methodologies of science, a space where imagination and evidence coexist, where one can consider what may have existed before our earliest records and what knowledge may have been buried by the passing of millennia. By the end of this exploration, the mind is gently prepared to consider not just what is known, but what might be hidden, subtly encoded in stone, artifact, or story. Science provides the tools to measure time, yet it also illuminates the immense gaps and silences where civilizations could have risen and vanished without leaving a clear trace. Deep time offers both context and mystery, a calm, expansive lens through which the echoes of the past become both meaningful and humbling. With this foundation, the documentary naturally transitions to the quiet contemplation of what remnants, tools, ruins, and whispers survive from civilizations that history may never fully remember. As we trace the layers of deep time and the silent testimony of megaliths, artifacts, and ancient myths, we begin to sense the quiet, persistent presence of what has been lost. Echoes of civilizations long vanished ripple through the remnants they left behind, often faint, fragmented, or hidden beneath the weight of centuries. Tools eroded by time, stone foundations swallowed by earth, and whispered legends preserved in oral tradition all speak of lives, knowledge, and societies that may never appear in the history books. These fragments act like distant stars. Though faint, they illuminate the vast expanse of human experience and hint at stories that extend far beyond the familiar arc of recorded history. The poignancy of these echoes lies in their subtlety. A carved stone, a partially preserved tablet, or a line of petroglyphs may carry hints of ritual, cosmology, or knowledge that is otherwise lost. Each discovery invites the mind to linger, to imagine the hands that shaped these objects, the communities that gathered around them, and the lives intertwined with the rhythms of their environment. There is a meditative quality in this contemplation, a sense of connection across millennia, as if these traces are quietly calling out, asking to be remembered, even as the civilizations that produced them have long faded into shadow. Patterns emerge within these remnants, suggesting cycles of rise and fall, growth and collapse. Cities built near rivers may be abandoned as waters shift. Fortifications erected on hillsides crumble under the erosion of centuries. Once fertile valleys turn to desert, leaving only whispers of human habitation. In these rhythms, one discerns a natural cadence to civilization itself, reminding us that the ephemeral nature of human endeavor is matched by the enduring patience of the earth. Each echo is a reminder that, while time erases, it also preserves, in soil, stone, and story, evidence of ingenuity, resilience, and creativity that cannot be entirely obliterated. Even myths and legends contribute to these echoes, serving as fragile bridges between what was and what is remembered. Flood myths, creation stories, and tales of vanished kingdoms may carry kernels of truth within their allegorical forms, whispering insights about migrations, disasters, or ancient cultures. By listening closely, one can perceive subtle consistencies across distant cultures, suggesting a shared memory that transcends geography and language. These recurring motifs act like threads weaving through the fabric of time, hinting that human history is not merely a linear progression, but a vast network of experiences, some recorded, some forgotten, yet all influencing the world we inherit today. The emotional resonance of contemplating the forgotten is profound. There is a quiet melancholy in realizing that entire civilizations, with their knowledge, dreams, and artistry, may have vanished without a clear trace. Yet within this melancholy exists awe, a recognition of human creativity and perseverance that persists even in fragmentary form. The traces left behind are invitations to curiosity, prompting gentle speculation about the lives of those who came before us. Each artifact, each ruin, each story is an echo in a vast canyon of time, faint but undeniable, urging reflection on the impermanence of existence and the persistence of memory. By observing these echoes, one begins to see that history is not a rigid sequence of events, but a layered, living record, much of which remains hidden beneath the surface. Ruins in remote landscapes, submerged settlements, and scattered artifacts are reminders that much of what we consider lost may yet be waiting to be discovered. In this quiet reflection, the mind is drawn to wonder, not merely about what happened, but about what might still lie hidden, unseen, and unrecorded. These echoes form the bridge to rethinking our place in time, preparing listeners for a meditation on humanity's continuity, fragility, and the possibility that the story of civilization is far older and more intricate than we dare to imagine. As the layers of deep time stretch before us, and the echoes of lost civilizations resonate in stone, ice, desert, and myth, a profound question emerges. What does it truly mean to be the first civilization on Earth? For centuries, history has been presented as a tidy sequence of events, beginning with early humans in recognizable settlements, progressing through the rise of city-states, kingdoms, and empires, culminating in the world we inhabit today. Yet as we peer deeper into the ancient past, guided by both science and imagination, this narrative begins to shift. Evidence from submerged landscapes, enigmatic megaliths, artifacts that defy conventional dating, and recurring mythological motifs suggest that our understanding of human history may only capture the latest chapter of a story that began long before our conventional records began. The world, it seems, is far older and far stranger than our textbooks often allow us to imagine. In contemplating these possibilities, the mind encounters a delicate tension between certainty and mystery. On one hand, archaeology, geology, and paleontology provide precise data, strata, isotopes, fossils, and radiometric ages that anchor our understanding of deep time. On the other, anomalies persist, structures older than we can easily explain, tools of improbable sophistication, and myths that hint at experiences far beyond what recorded history suggests. The juxtaposition of these two modes of understanding, the concrete and the enigmatic, creates a quiet, meditative space. It is here, in this reflective tension, that we are invited to reconsider our place in the timeline of life and civilization, to recognize that our sense of primacy may be an illusion shaped by the fragments we happen to possess. Consider the notion that lost civilizations may have existed long before the earliest known cities. Places like Göbekli Tepe, which predates the pyramids by thousands of years, hint at organized societies capable of coordinated construction and symbolic expression. Similarly, submerged ruins discovered off coastlines from India to Japan suggest that entire communities may have thrived in landscapes now claimed by the sea. In the deserts, the outlines of forgotten settlements, irrigation systems, and petroglyphs speak of lives adapted to climates and conditions very different from those we know. Each of these discoveries gently challenges the assumption that history began in the familiar cradle of Mesopotamia, Egypt, or the Indus Valley. Instead, it nudges us toward a broader vision, a world where human ingenuity arose, flourished, and occasionally disappeared in ways we are only beginning to perceive. The implications of this perspective are both humbling and exhilarating. Humbling because it forces us to acknowledge the transience of our own civilizations, the impermanence of structures, knowledge, and culture in the face of deep time. Exhilarating because it expands the horizon of possibility, inviting curiosity, exploration, and imagination. If civilizations have arisen and vanished in epochs predating our memory, then the story of humanity is far more intricate than linear narratives suggest. This is not a call to abandon reason or science, but a gentle encouragement to consider the vastness of time, the resilience and fragility of life, and the possibility that our current understanding is only a small window into the grandeur of what has occurred before. Patterns in the rise and fall of civilizations reinforce this reflection. Natural cycles, floods, droughts, climate shifts, tectonic upheavals, have repeatedly reshaped the environment, erasing entire societies while leaving traces that are only partially legible. The contrast between the permanence of geological processes and the fragility of human endeavor is striking. Mountains endure while empires crumble. Rivers carve valleys while cities vanish. In this context, artifacts, ruins, and myths act as whispers from the past, faint signals pointing to a continuity of human or pre-human activity that transcends the familiar historical timeline. These signals invite quiet contemplation. What knowledge, ingenuity, or wisdom has been lost to time, and what might still lie hidden beneath the surface of Earth or the layers of our collective memory? Our place in time is further complicated by the realization that memory itself is fragile. Written records, oral traditions, and monuments are subject to decay, reinterpretation, and destruction. Wars, natural disasters, and cultural shifts erase evidence as effectively as glaciers or shifting sands. Yet within this fragility, patterns persist. Mythologies echo across continents. Construction techniques appear independently in distant regions, and celestial alignments emerge repeatedly in megalithic structures. These consistencies suggest that the past, though partially obscured, leaves enduring traces that can guide our imagination. They form a lattice of possibility, allowing us to construct hypotheses about civilizations lost, their knowledge encoded in stone, earth, and story. Philosophically, rethinking our place in time invites a meditation on continuity and impermanence. If human history is not a unique or linear emergence, but part of a recurring rhythm of creation, flourishing, and collapse, then our identities shift from that of sole originators to participants in a much larger, ongoing process. Our accomplishments, while significant, are temporary notes in a symphony that has played for millennia. Recognizing this offers a profound sense of humility, but also a gentle empowerment. We are part of a lineage of curiosity, innovation, and adaptation that stretches far beyond the limits of recorded memory. In this reflection, the listener is encouraged to feel a connection not only to known ancestors, but to the invisible hands of civilizations whose existence has been largely erased, yet whose influence may still ripple through time. Even the mysteries of ancient artifacts and megalithic structures take on new significance in this context. Stones aligned to the stars, tools of improbable complexity, and legends of advanced knowledge hint that civilizations may have achieved remarkable feats long before conventional history places them. These are not merely curiosities, but echoes that challenge our understanding of human capability, suggesting that the capacity for ingenuity, creativity, and wonder is not confined to the historical period we can document. They remind us that human history may be a palimpsest, layers written and rewritten, partially erased but never entirely destroyed. The act of contemplating these remnants is, in itself, a bridge across time, connecting present awareness to past brilliance. In this reflective state, the mind begins to appreciate the subtle interplay between fact and speculation, science and imagination, light and shadow. Each archaeological discovery, mythological pattern, or geological anomaly serves as a reminder that history is not a static narrative, but a living tapestry woven from countless threads, some visible, some hidden, some waiting to be discovered. It encourages patience, observation, and humility, inviting the audience to dwell in curiosity rather than urgency, to listen to the quiet stories that earth and memory are still revealing. In this sense, rethinking our place in time is as much about perception as it is about knowledge, an invitation to perceive the vastness and mystery of human existence as both observer and participant. Finally, contemplating the potential of lost civilizations fosters a quiet reverence for human resilience and the endurance of memory itself. Even when cities vanish, tools crumble, and monuments fall, patterns persist in subtle ways, in the alignment of stones, in the rhythm of myths, in the clues encoded in sediment and ice. They suggest that the story of humanity, far from being fully written, is ongoing, layered, and waiting for those who can read its echoes. This reflection prepares the listener for the final meditation, a gentle invitation to consider not only what came before, but what it means to exist, create, and remember within the vast continuum of time. In the end, our place in time is not simply as the first, but as one voice in a chorus that has been singing for millennia and will continue in whispers long after we are gone. As our journey through time reaches its final reflection, the mind is invited to slow, to linger, and to absorb the quiet vastness of history that stretches far beyond the familiar timelines of modern civilization. We have wandered through layers of deep time, from the earliest signs of life to enigmatic megaliths, from submerged cities to shifting deserts, from myths whispered across continents to artifacts that defy conventional dating. Each step along this path has illuminated the contrast between what is known and what remains hidden, between the permanence of stone and ice and the fleeting span of human memory. In this space, the past feels alive, not as a collection of dates and events, but as a living presence, softly echoing through the landscapes, legends, and objects left behind. The allure of lost civilizations lies not merely in the mysteries themselves, but in the quiet meditation they provoke. Consider the silent ruins beneath ice, their stories preserved yet concealed, awaiting discovery. Picture the vast deserts where the wind shifts sands over the faint outlines of forgotten cities. Imagine stones precisely carved, standing for thousands of years, pointing toward stars that have shifted slightly in the sky, reminding us of the patience, skill, and vision of unknown hands. These remnants speak across the millennia, and their messages are often subtle, requiring contemplation rather than hurried interpretation. The calm, immersive tone of these reflections allows the listener to enter a space where curiosity is nurtured, where questions linger gently, and where the unknown is embraced rather than feared. There is a profound resonance in understanding that history is not linear, that human achievement is not confined to what is recorded. The tools, structures, and myths explored in this journey suggest that the story of civilization may extend far beyond what we have documented. Perhaps we are only the latest chapter of a much older saga, inheritors of knowledge, culture, and experience that stretches back thousands, or even tens of thousands, of years before we believed. This realization carries both humility and awe, humility in the face of the countless lives and societies that have come and gone, and awe at the resilience, creativity, and ambition that persist even in fragments. Listening to these echoes encourages a deep reflection on the nature of time itself. Human perception, bounded by lifetimes and centuries, often struggles to grasp the immense scales on which the Earth and its civilizations operate. Mountains form, rivers carve valleys, climates shift, and seas rise and fall, while human endeavors appear ephemeral against these vast forces. Yet within this impermanence, patterns emerge, traces of ingenuity, evidence of adaptation, and hints of knowledge passed down, intentionally or not, across generations. The juxtaposition of human fragility and the endurance of memory, encoded in stone, story, or landscape, offers a quiet reminder that our existence is both fleeting and connected to something far greater than ourselves. This reflection also touches upon the poetic dimension of human history. Artifacts, ruins, and myths are not just historical data. They are expressions of human consciousness reaching across time. Each petroglyph, each carved stone, each submerged ruin carries the imprint of intention, imagination, and care. They are, in a sense, messages sent forward across centuries, waiting for attentive ears to listen. The act of listening itself becomes a form of connection, an intimate dialogue between past and present. By engaging with these echoes, we participate in a timeless conversation, bridging gaps that span millennia, continents, and cultures. Myths and legends, particularly, reveal the enduring human effort to make sense of existence, to preserve knowledge, and to communicate across generations. Floods, celestial events, and vanished kingdoms recur in stories from Africa, Asia, Europe, and the Americas. These shared motifs suggest that even as physical structures crumble, human memory endures in subtle, symbolic, and powerful ways. By attuning ourselves to these patterns, we not only gain insight into ancient cultures, but also cultivate a sense of wonder and continuity, understanding that our present is linked to countless past lives and societies, many of which remain hidden or partially erased. The emotional resonance of this meditation is profound. There is a gentle sadness in recognizing the impermanence of human achievement, yet there is also a quiet triumph in acknowledging the resilience of memory and the persistence of influence. Civilizations may rise and fall, and yet fragments endure. Whispers of knowledge, glimpses of artistry, faint echoes of lives lived with purpose, creativity, and wonder. In listening, we honor these civilizations and allow ourselves to expand our understanding of time, human potential, and the fragile, beautiful interplay between permanence and decay. Moreover, contemplating lost civilizations encourages reflection on our own place in the ongoing flow of history. We are both observers and participants, inheritors of accumulated knowledge and cultural expression. The awareness of deep time and vanished societies instills humility. Our achievements, while meaningful, are temporary notes in a grand symphony that has played long before us and will continue long after. Yet it also inspires hope, reminding us that what we create, art, ideas, monuments, stories, can ripple through time, leaving echoes for future generations. This meditation fosters a sense of connection across time, emphasizing that history is not merely something to study, but something to inhabit, to feel, and to respect. Finally, the act of listening to the past, of dwelling in the quiet spaces between known and unknown, is itself a form of reflection and restoration. In the silence of deserts, the stillness of ice, the solidity of stone, and the rhythm of stories passed down, there's a profound invitation to slow, to ponder, and to align ourselves with the deep currents of existence. We are reminded that curiosity, wonder, and reverence for the mysteries of time are as vital now as they were for those who came before us. These echoes encourage us to remain attentive, patient, and open, to allow history to speak not as a rigid record, but as a living presence. As the journey draws to a close, the mind is left with a gentle sense of continuity and connection. The mysteries of lost civilizations, deep time, and enduring memory linger not as questions to be urgently solved, but as whispers to be savored, felt, and reflected upon. In embracing this quiet exploration, listeners are invited to honor the past, acknowledge the impermanence of the present, and contemplate the endless possibilities of human experience stretching into the future. Our journey through time ends here, not with definitive answers, but with a serene recognition that history is alive, layered, and waiting patiently for those willing to listen. In this final reflection, one realizes that to be human is to exist within a vast continuum, surrounded by echoes of ingenuity, creativity, and mystery that have persisted for millennia. The past is not a distant country. It is a living presence, intertwined with the present, guiding thought, imagination, and understanding. By listening closely, we participate in a dialogue with countless generations, bridging the gap between what has been, what remains, and what may yet be discovered. The calm, immersive journey concludes not in certainty, but in reverence, wonder, and a profound sense of being part of something far larger than oneself. A world alive with stories, mysteries, and the enduring presence of civilizations long gone, yet never truly forgotten.